We begin today's wrestling news and rumors video with some big news regarding Johnny Gargano, and more so Gargano's future in wrestling following his leave from WWE. While some fans were sure that Johnny Gargano was going to be staying in WWE and choosing to re-sign with the company, when it was all said and done, Johnny decided to opt out of renewing or signing any new contract with WWE to become a free agent and instead tries luck in another wrestling company. And it is really hard to blame Johnny Gargano for walking out on WWE, because his future in the company was fairly bleak, as Vince McMahon's new rendition of NXT, aka NXT 2.0, was not really going to be a great place for Gargano in the long term. And when it comes to the main roster of Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, there's almost a guarantee that Gargano would have been misused greatly and potentially even released down the line after being booked in an unfavorable way. So Johnny avoided all of that and left WWE on his own terms, which again was likely the right call on Johnny's part. Now, as far as where Johnny Gargano plans to go following his leave from WWE, according to a new behind-the-scenes report, Johnny is strongly considering a run in AEW All Elite Wrestling. It's unknown as of right now if Gargano has had any sort of contract talks or negotiations with AEW yet, but apparently All Elite Wrestling is where Johnny Gargano is strongly considering to go following his departure from WWE. In all honesty, Johnny Gargano would be a great addition to the AEW roster and would likely fit in well there, but at the same time, when this news started to go around regarding Johnny Gargano potentially being AEW bound in the near future, some fans claim that they fear that Johnny Gargano will eventually be lost in the shuffle in AEW and not have that much more success compared to WWE, due to AEW's continuously growing roster of talent, and that Johnny may be pushed to the sidelines and not given the spotlight he deserves. However, things could definitely go well for Johnny Gargano in AEW just as easily, and it is highly probable that Johnny would be paid well in All Elite Wrestling if he does choose to sign with the company. Some fans have expressed recently that they like the idea of Johnny Gargano in AEW, whereas others feel that AEW is signing way too many former WWE superstars, and that while Johnny Gargano could in theory be a solid addition to the roster, some feel like Tony Khan needs to slow down when it comes to signing all of these ex-WWE wrestlers, and that with a fairly large roster that AEW has right now, Johnny Gargano probably would not even be utilized to his fullest potential. As well, Johnny Gargano is likely wanting a pretty solid amount of money, so if AEW does not really have any major plans to utilize Gargano in a prominent role in the company, some fans feel that this would be a bad signing for AEW and not a great overall financial decision for the company. With all of this being said, while Johnny Gargano is reportedly strongly considering signing with AEW, that does not rule out the possibility of Gargano deciding to re-sign with WWE down the line after taking a bit of a break. And let us know down in the comment section below what Johnny Gargano should do, re-sign with WWE, or choose to try his luck in AEW. Also, if Johnny Gargano does decide to join All Elite Wrestling, do you feel like Gargano will have more success in AEW compared to WWE, especially now that NXT has been taken over by Vince McMahon? Or do you think that Johnny will quickly be lost in the shuffle, so to speak, in AEW? Let us know. We now have some sad news regarding Bray Wyatt, and more specifically Bray Wyatt's career in wrestling moving forward. Now, when the Fiend Bray Wyatt was suddenly fired and released from WWE this past summer, it sent shockwaves to the wrestling community, as Bray's release was so unexpected and such an overall big loss for WWE, as Bray was undoubtedly one of the most popular stars in the company, and also a top merchandise mover as well. However, fans quickly got over Bray Wyatt's release from WWE because the talk then shifted over to Bray Wyatt's next move in wrestling, and the possibility of Bray Wyatt aka Wyndham Rotunda making a monumental move to AEW or Impact Wrestling, and potentially realizing even more success than he had in WWE because of Bray's immense popularity and talent, and potentially being given more creative freedom and a better push in AEW. However, Bray's 90-day non-compete clause temporarily halted any possibility of Bray joining All Elite Wrestling or any other wrestling company for that matter. But as most of you are likely aware, Bray's non-compete clause with WWE has been finished for nearly 2 months now, and despite continuous rumors about Bray Wyatt debuting in AEW, absolutely nothing has happened when it comes to Bray Wyatt in wrestling. And sadly enough, a new backstage report has leaked some pretty sad news regarding Bray Wyatt's immediate future in wrestling. According to this new backstage rumor, Bray Wyatt, real name Wyndham Rotunda, is sadly not planning on returning to wrestling anytime soon, at least not for the foreseeable future, and this news has not surprisingly upset a lot of wrestling fans who are so eager to see Bray Wyatt join another wrestling company, specifically making a surprise debut in AEW, and with the new reports going around, that unfortunately will not be happening anytime soon. Bray Wyatt apparently is in no hurry to make a comeback in wrestling, and shockingly enough, there is even a chance that Bray may decide not to return to wrestling whatsoever in the future. And if that's the case, that would truly be unfortunate, as Bray Wyatt is such a talented performer and would be such an amazing and worthwhile addition to the AEW roster, or even Impact Wrestling if that was something Bray was considering. The buzz has also been so crazy for Bray Wyatt to join AEW recently, and sadly that buzz is going to be toning down now that Bray's not returning to wrestling anytime soon. Let us know your thoughts on these new reports that Bray Wyatt will not be joining any wrestling company soon after his release from WWE, and do you think that it would be sad if Bray Wyatt never returns to wrestling, and instead focuses on other ventures including acting? Or is it no big loss for AEW, Impact Wrestling, or even WWE? Sound off in the comment section below. This past week's episode of Friday Night SmackDown saw quite an intense emotional segment involving Paul Heyman, and the sad segment with Paul Heyman stemmed from the previous week's SmackDown, which saw the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns fire his special counsel Paul Heyman. In this segment, Paul Heyman questioned his career in wrestling after being fired by Roman Reigns, and Heyman made it clear that his career in wrestling is more than likely over, now that he's no longer tied to Roman Reigns. While Paul Heyman is going to be featured heavily in the storyline between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, there is a new behind-the-scenes rumor that has leaked WWE may be playing up this storyline to another level, with Paul Heyman quite possibly being storyline released and fired from WWE, now that he's no longer working with Roman Reigns. One source mentioned that Paul Heyman may try to interfere in the Universal Championship match at Day 1, leading to Adam Pearce releasing Paul Heyman from WWE after his actions at Day 1, after Roman Reigns would complain to management over Paul Heyman's involvement in the Universal Championship match. Of course, Paul Heyman would eventually be brought back to television on SmackDown, and in the process likely realign with Brock Lesnar, but Vince feels having Paul Heyman released will add even more heat to Roman Reigns, and add more suspense to this whole storyline between Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and Paul Heyman. However, while it may just be a storyline release for Paul Heyman in the immediate future, once this whole Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns storyline comes to an end next year, there's actually a chance that Paul Heyman could be legitimately released from WWE, seeing as though Vince does not really have any plans for Paul Heyman aside from this current storyline.